Hello, I hope you're all well and looking forward to spending the next hour with you. Thank you so much for joining me for this live today, and I hope you didn't miss me too much last week. I had last weekend obviously was the day of multilingualism, and we had these really cool presentations and talks about multilingual topics, and we hosted them on the Polyglot Conference live environment. And you're still welcome to view. Most of the talks, I think, are uploaded now. We've just got a few more to upload into the Saturn Theatre. So if you still want to do that, you can still join the Polyglot Conference live environment. You can register and you can see what there is there. There's, amongst other things, there's a chat that I had with Professor Alexander Arguelles and a chat I had with Johan van der Volle, and then there are a number of chats and panel discussions about children and multilingualism, and also a chat with Thomas Bach, which I don't believe is up yet, but will be soon. But the rest of them, I think, are. And yeah, you're welcome to join. But today we're talking about these last 3 months. You may remember at the end of last year, I opened up applications to study with me and to have sessions with me, whether that was people having sessions on their own or in groups. And so it was an interesting thing for a few reasons. First of all, I'd been working over the whole COVID period with a few people on their language learning journeys for different reasons. And they were just, one of them actually was a friend of the family who was having difficulty passing the final exams at university. And so I was helping to coach them through that and managed to get them through all of the exams, and they're now graduated, and that sort of has finished. And what I liked about that whole process was watching the growth and also watching benchmarks and sort of things being met, people sort of benchmarks being met, targets being met. And that for me was a really important thing to go through and experience, and I really enjoyed it. And so that's why I decided to open up this idea of studying with me and finding out where we need help. And it's been, as I say, an interesting journey. So first of all, working with people one-on-one is one thing, but we've also have these group sessions that go on, and people have joined Patreon and joined in these sessions. And what we do is we discuss on a weekly basis. So the Patreon thing, kind of aside, is what it describes. We have weekly meetups basically, and we talk about language learning, and we talk about what we're doing, and we talk about our goals, and we talk about difficulties, the highs and lows. And I've really, really enjoyed doing those. I also really enjoy doing the one-on-one stuff. I've enjoyed both. Both are very different, and I want to kind of have a time now to take stock of what that's been like. But before I get to my experience, I do want to just have a look at the questions, sort of the questions and responses that I got from you too. And I'm aware that a couple of people who actually work with me on these sessions have written in as well. So thank you very, very much. You know who you are. So yeah, one of the things I get asked is, what have I learned, and what's the question that I've most had from the groups and from the people I work with, whether one-on-one or in groups? It's a good question, and I will definitely get to it. And then I had a few other questions, which I will definitely get to. Questions about reactivating language learning. How do you reactivate languages that you've learned and forgotten? How do you deal with language practice and maintaining them and not forget them? What do you do when you're not improving language sessions with your language partners, when you're not making improvements in your language learning after you've had sessions with a partner? And I had one saying, I've learned 4 languages for 9 years. How can I help people learn languages better in my country? Very good question. And when should you start learning start with Slavic literature? Also, interesting question. And how do I best retain what I have learned? All really, really good questions, and we'll get to those questions. I think that's sort of as a continuation of my discussion. I just wanted to share those with you to sort of have an idea of what's to come. As usual, I am speaking to you live right now. If you're obviously watching a recording after this has been published, then it will be recording. Um, and the questions that you send me now in chat, I will come back to after I've finished speaking about the topic that I've set, and I will answer questions in order. So I will go back through Instagram and YouTube, and I will answer questions. Thank you very much for saying welcome back. Thank you, I appreciate it. So the first thing I think I want to talk about is just generally how, for me, that's been with the experience of working with different people. There are a few things that I can tell you. So what I've noticed is, and what is quite difficult for a lot of us, is choice of materials, what to do and what to set as goals. And these are things that you hear mentioned quite a lot in by other people on the internet, and it seems like a very obvious thing. Oh, my goal is still in the language, and why am I wasting my time with this? The thing is, not all of us find it super simple to have goals that are achievable and we can look back on them, and we sometimes lose sight of that. And that is one of the challenges I think that we as learners, and I include myself in this too, I need to remind myself of a lot of these things on a regular basis. So a lot to do with goals and what sort of goals to set and how to set them and how to monitor them and how to achieve them, and also how to then measure them later on, and how to feel good about what we have done and not feel bad about what we haven't done. And the psychology, particularly of the group sessions, we have a very open platform to talk about, when things are going good, but also when things are not going so good, not things that they're not going so well, sorry, in our lives. And it's normal. We have lives where things happen, and we have to take stock of that, and we have to be aware that we can't do everything that we want to perfection all of the time, and we also have to be kind to ourselves. And all of these things sound very straightforward, but the reality is actually quite different. I found that, you know, we do tend to be nicer to other people. We're able to give this advice to people quite easily, but we do find it quite hard to really take on board our own advice and to uh, be nice to ourselves. And I think that it's really important that we start to be nice to ourselves. And I see this because we've now been on a journey of 3 months together with our groups, that we have gone through these different stages, and we have set tasks. There are some things that I want to share with you that we do during our sessions that I really, really enjoy. One of them is actually celebrating the language in a way of giving examples of what we're learning and what we've been studying and what we found difficult and what we found easy. And one way of doing that is that we share words that we've learned. We share the etymologies and the stories behind them and how they're used in the language. And what I really love about the group classes that we have, the groups that we have with for the language learning therapy groups, is that we all just get into whichever language that person's learning. We hear about it, and I think because we genuinely are interested in language, we can always find some interest in what they're saying. And I love watching everyone's faces light up with excitement and sort of, oh, I found this word and it's really cool. It's so nice when somebody is enthusiastic and positive and really sort of into what they're doing. There's something about that passion that just makes everyone feel good. and and this is what I get from these group sessions. I get this feeling of just this positivity of people spreading this positivity as well, and I absolutely love that. And so a lot of our group sessions really center around that kind of activity, and talking about it and talking about things that we find maybe difficult or hard, or things that we find easy and things that we've done that we celebrate. A lot will also be very practical things that we talk about. So, for example, finding blocks when we've got a language partner, or we've got a teacher where we don't feel like we're moving forwards. trying to sort of figure out which ways that the personality of the person studying the language and the teacher can maybe work better together, so that they can find a path to actually get the most out of those sessions. And it's really good because it's over a longer period of time, we really get to see how those situations develop, and we can sort of try different things and see what works. And it's kind of a nice touch point where we actually just get together and talk about the whole experience of learning a language. And I love how the groups have sort of interacted with each other and gelled, and we all support each other and help each other, and I like that. It's a very positive environment. Naturally as well, there are lots of other things that go on, right, that affect the way we learn. So there are things to do with outside external things going on in our lives, whether it's work, whether it's what's going on in the news, what's going on in life, whatever it is. There are different stresses and tensions and pulls and pushes that we have and experience during our lives, and we talk about those. We talk about how that affects us, because I'm a great believer in a holistic approach when it comes to language learning, but also pretty much anything. Actually, I'm a holistic type person, and I think that the being real with ourselves is super important. And so many of the conversations that I have dealt with the reality of language learning, the reality of what we actually have going on in our lives, what our goals are, and how we can realistically achieve them. And so from my point of view, and I see this as well from people, and they've actually said to me, later on, it's really good that we identified this, because now I realize that that's what I needed to change, and that's what I needed to do. And letting go of it was hard. And sometimes things that we need to let go of are old methods, things that we did at school that we find very difficult to let go of and to change. Um, Sometimes it can actually be changing methodology completely. So we might be more of an online person, and actually finding that frustrating, but not knowing why. And then we try a different way of doing things. Sometimes it can be the opposite way around, though. We need to incorporate more gadgetry into our learning. And so there's not one way of learning a language. I mean, you can buy books, you can buy courses, you can buy whatever you want, and all of them are valid. This is the thing, all of them are valid. I'm not going to sit here and say to you, this is right, this is wrong. There are people who have learned languages in many, many different ways. How I learn a language is different to how Luca Lampariello learns a language, or how Judith Meyer learns a language, or how Alexander Arguelles learns language, or how Lydia Machova learns a language, or how Lindy Bortes learns a language. We all learn languages differently. And I'm not going to pretend to you that I'm right, they're wrong, or anything like that. It's not true. The truth is finding your truth and your path. And this is why I really now know that these sessions are particularly cool, because I can, first of all, during these sessions, I can give some advice. But during the sessions that I have, the group sessions and the one-on-one sessions, it just allows me that time to have proper in-depth conversations with individual people who want help. The sessions are not for people who are already, um, uh, for example, just want to talk to me because I might appear interesting in some way. It might be nice to do that, it might be, but I want to actually offer something useful, and I'm very happy to talk to anybody anytime anyway. I mean, I'm quite an open person, and I'm very happy to talk to as many people as I possibly can. Usually the best places to catch me for those kinds of conversations are at events, during these kinds of things. I may start doing some sort of things where if you just want to chat with me in person, then I may just start doing some Zoom calls where I can take 30 people at a time or something, that we can just chat together. But otherwise, if you actually, I want to personally help individual people with language learning. And for me, whether that's to help you be accountable for what you're doing, and to just to be a touch point on a weekly basis, whether that's because you've got particular needs with your language learning that you need to work through, I've now, after 3 months, I've had a few people who have just reached a natural part where they're just going on with it now. So there was there have been a couple of people where that's happened, and it feels really good to me that they they have, you know, they had limited time. They needed to figure out what to do to best use their time, and they learned that from me, and then now they're kind of flying, and that's a very, very nice experience. Everybody is different though, and just because one person finds one way and another person finds another way, um, I think it's important to make sure that we find the authentic way for us as individuals. It's no use me telling anybody you have to do this or you have to do that. It's a conversation, it's a dialogue, and then it's a let's try this. How does that sound? And we work through it together. We work through really concrete, tangible things that you can actually do to move forward. And um, this has been for me the big eye opener, is that I always thought that it was a very individual process. So me telling you one thing to do wasn't the way forward, and I've never really believed that. And so the sessions can be quite different as a result, because certain sessions will have different bits of advice or ideas than others. And so yeah, it's been a real good confirmation for me, but also an eye opener for certain things that I didn't know how they would turn out. I had no idea how the group sessions would work in comparison to the one-on-one sessions. The one-on-one sessions for me were fairly straightforward, because one person, me talking to somebody else and giving ideas and feedback and whatever. But some of those sessions have turned into language analysis sessions, where we actually go through a language and we learn the language and look how to learn the language together. Um, and some of them have turned into just sort of advice on like practical language tips and things to try and check-in points. But the group sessions actually I've really, really enjoyed, in particular because um, they've really felt like a community coming together, and I just adore all the people I work with. I think they're all wonderful people. Um, the groups are quite special. We get some really special moments that occur during those times, and I love it. And so what I've done, because like anything that you set up like in this way, there were a lot of people who applied, and a lot of people who possibly weren't applied because it was sounded like a cool thing to do. Now I'm going to say, if you want to join me for these types of sessions, I've reopened the application to study with me. This time I'm going to be a little bit stricter on who I contact. So I will not necessarily have interviews with everybody this time. I had interviews with most people last time, or at least offered the option to meet with me last time. This time I won't. This time I really want to have people who I know, A, have got the time, B, have got a genuine desire to learn a particular language or particular languages and have concrete things that they want to do. Um, and also people who are definitely going to be around and be able to allocate time for learning. So if you're just enjoying languages and you're having fun with them, continue doing that and join me on a Sunday. It's fantastic. And just enjoy that. If you just enjoy playing with languages and sort of you don't have any particular goals with them, also just enjoy the interactions and carry on doing it. It's a very positive thing that you're doing. Um, if you feel like you've sorted everything and you don't have any issues with your language learning, again, continue doing what you're doing. You probably don't need me at all. Um, but if you feel that you would benefit from chatting with me, talking to me about your learning, getting advice, getting tips, getting help, actually having a point of reference to come back on a weekly basis to talk about what you're doing and how you're doing, and sort of have a check-in, then maybe you're the right person. Get in touch, let me know. You can do it either on Patreon, and you will also get an invitation if you join me on Patreon. You can also fill in the application form. Patreon's pretty much guaranteed that you'll get an invitation if you join. Um, because you'll be a patron, so you'll be in the community. With the application form, I take people for whatever you can or can't donate. I don't charge a particular rate for this. I have people who come and they don't necessarily donate. I have other people that do donate a little bit of money, but I don't necessarily ask for anything. Now, you're very welcome to do that. I'm going to start with the questions that I have from the responses and just see if I can answer these first, and then I'm going to come back to the other questions. We have 10 minutes for these, and then half an hour hopefully to chat and to answer the questions that you've got now coming on in the chats on YouTube and on Instagram. So first of all, the ones that were pre-received. Okay, so I hope I've answered the question about what I mostly talk about. I think that was probably it. How to reactivate a language you've learned and then forgotten. It's a good question. For me, it really depends on the language. So if it's a language that is not related to other languages I speak well, the process can feel a bit harder. I tend to go back through the books or the courses that I've studied. I do tend to use course books and study with course books. So it would be listening back to the audio as a first thing to sort of refamiliarize myself with dialogues and sentence structures and grammar and vocabulary that I've heard before. And then I may also read those same books as well. And then I also find music helps to activate or reactivate language in my head. And then talking to myself and thinking of, oh, how did I say that? And then if I tend to have an idea of where I roughly was with the language, it's amazing how quickly some of those things can come back. An intensive period of a few weeks sometimes can be enough to trigger the memories and to start getting back into it. I found that with Indonesian, it was roughly around that to get back to where I was. It's a very slow burn for me with Indonesian. I've still have lessons and check-in points where I speak and use the language, but it's still not at an amazing level. It's just reactivated and sort of still active now. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. And then once you've got past that point, then it's sort of building on that again and moving forward. So yeah, they're the kinds of things that I would do. How to deal with many languages and practice maintain them all at once to not forget them. That is a more tricky question to answer. And the reason it's trickier to answer is because it depends on how many languages you've got. It also depends on how much time you've got during the day. So sometimes you have to make some very difficult decisions when you pick a number of languages to study. If you've taken on so many languages that you're not naturally using them in your normal life, which is the easiest thing, and which is why most of my choices have been the way they have been. People often ask me, why did you choose these languages? Well, the languages actually ended up choosing me. It was because I either lived in the country, I worked in the country, or I studied in the country, or eventually married into a different culture and the languages of the local communities. So I learned the languages of the local communities as important languages for me to learn because I knew that I would get to practice them and hear them without even trying. Then other languages that I would prioritize were languages that I would use often for work, languages we used in the family. Then other languages I am quite happy to let go very rusty. Not all languages need to be kept up all of the time. In fact, it would be impossible for me to go back to every single language that I've studied and keep them all at the same level, even to keep them at an A2 level, which is kind of, you can basically communicate basic stuff in the language. That would be pretty demanding. So it's making some tough choices sometimes to do that. I found that learning similar languages can sometimes work out well for this process. Sometimes it can work out not so well. So things where it's not so well is when the languages are so similar that a language gets sucked back into the knowledge of the language that you speak better or understand better or study to a higher level. So for me, that was Slovak. So I studied Slovak for the Polyglot Gathering 1 year, and I took part in a competition. And then After that competition happened, I never used my Slovak again, and my Slovak went back into my Czech and Polish. And so now, if I try to speak Slovak, it would be a complete disaster. I mean, I can say certain things, nech se páči and stuff like that in Slovak, and I do understand it, obviously, still, because it's not a million miles away from the languages I speak. But to speak it actively would be a challenge. I would probably have to go back through rereading my colloquial Slovak book that I used when I first learned it, and maybe start watching Panelák again, which is a Slovak series. So yeah, it's not always the easiest thing to do. So yeah, sometimes hard decisions, right? Think about how long you've got to study. What do you do when you're not improving a language after sessions with your language partner? That's a tough one. Okay, so unpopular view. Sometimes when you're not improving, that's your fault. Sorry. It's true though. It's true. It's true. And the reason I say it can be your fault, and you've got to analyze this in a very honest way, it could be your fault in that you have got so used to talking about such basic things that you're not testing yourself by talking about more difficult concepts or topics. And so you end up talking to your teacher and you talk about the same things over and over again. And you maybe have like 1 or 2 words that we knew, maybe max. And that's not really enough, because you need to, when you're improving a language, particularly when you get past sort of A2 and you get into the B1, B2 levels, you need to not just keep reviewing everything you've done, but you also need to get new vocabulary, new topics and stuff, and move it forward, right? And if we're talking about the same thing every week, well, where's the new stuff coming in? And so you've really got to make a big effort. And this is one of the things that we do actually in our group sessions and in the individual sessions, is we have to get very real about and very honest about what you're doing and what you're not doing. And this can be very individual, but as a general rule, what I find people do is that they will just sort of go, yeah, how are you? Yeah, it was fine. How was your weekend? Yeah, it was good. What did you do? Well, I went to the shops, went to the cinema. What did you watch at the cinema? I watched this film. It was an action film. It was great. Da, 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 da. And it's all very easy for you. And you do it for an hour and you come away thinking, yeah, I spoke the language. Isn't that amazing? But the thing is if you do that over months and months and months and months and months and months and months, you start to think, oh, I just use the same words and same grammar every single week, and maybe talk about slightly different things because it's comfortable, because it's easy. And there's nothing necessarily or inherently wrong with doing that, as long as you know that's what you're doing. The problem is if you're not happy with that, then you need to make a change. And those changes could be as simple as thinking of topics that you can't really discuss particularly well, finding news articles and taking them, reading them, prepare them before the class, prepare them before you meet with your language partner or teacher, and read the article together, and then talk about it and see where your gaps are, see what's going wrong with the language, make notes on what you can't say. Like, note down, just take a pen and paper, a pencil and paper, and have a bit of paper and a pencil next to your keyboard or wherever you're sitting, and just write down, okay, I couldn't say that word, I couldn't say this, I couldn't say that. And then if you don't get them corrected or find out what they are then, right then during the conversation, at least go back and do it later. And I'm not saying write down like hundreds and hundreds of things. If you only write down 5 or 6 things, right? 5 or 6 things, let's say, during one session, and you learn those, and then you make it a goal to use those in the next session. That's fantastic. That's really fantastic, and you should do that. So that would be my first thing to do. So if you have that as a problem, do that, okay? And after a while, you'll start to see that you'll bring more vocabulary into your conversations. Your conversations will get richer. And because I've got a number of languages that I always say this, I always say this about Greek. When I go to Greece, I speak Greek. It's fine. It works. It's functional. But I never really tried to do much more with it. And I recognized that my Greek was just something I spoke when I was in Greece, and that was kind of it. And it is functional, and I can talk about lots of different things for hours on end in Greek. It's not particularly mind-blowing stuff that I say, but it's not, and I'm not very precise on all of the details, but I can function in Greek, and I can function when I go to Greece, and I don't need to speak English. But if I wanted to, this would be an example of a language where I do think, oh, I say the same words and I use the same things over and over again. So I know the feeling. I know how it feels to have that, and that's what I do. And in fact, that's why these kinds of books are really good. And I've shown you these books before, right? The Click There is so much in terms of vocabulary in these types of books. Because look how thick they are. Like this is just one B1 and then B2. These are thick books. They got a lot of vocabulary in, and to get to grips with that vocabulary takes time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of reading and exercises and getting a lot of stuff wrong. So it does take time as well. So be kind to yourselves with time. Thank you for all the hearts and for the likes. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's so kind. I am seeing the hearts and I'm like, wow, that's so sweet. YouTube, there are more of you on there than I have likes. Please do like my videos. Please, I would love to see more likes. It's always nice to get those kind of like things going up when you're talking, so you feel that you're hitting the spot when you're talking about things. I really appreciate it. Thank you. When should you start with Slavic literature? I think when you're ready to start learning literature is when you should start doing it. There isn't an exact science to this. You can start looking at types of literature. It could be readers, it could be some different things at all stages, right? From like A2 right the way up. A1's probably going to be a bit tough to look at any literature. From A2, really, you can start looking at literature. Certain things, right? Definitely. And then all the way up, it might be good to look at short stories, for example. Some short stories might be tough, but at least you know where the start, the beginning, and end are, and they don't feel so overwhelming, I guess, when you first look at them. So if you see if you see a Tolstoy thing and it's like this thick, then it might be a little bit trickier, right, to tackle. You might feel a little bit overwhelmed. Start with shorter things, smaller things, readers that are specifically for learners. They might be good things. Children's books are often mentioned. I'm kind of in two minds about children's books. Some of them can be really good. So a children's book that I particularly like and have read in a few languages is Wonder, which I think is a lovely story. And I've read that in a few languages. I really like that story. It's beautiful. Other storybooks, some people read Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter, if you like Harry Potter and that's what you like to talk about, then great. It can be a little bit specific in its vocabulary that it teaches you, because it's about a magical world. So be very aware of what you're reading and why you're reading it. If your goal is to speak about things that are relevant to your life or relevant to life in general, then maybe head for something that's more about life stuff. Things, I would probably go with Roald Dahl type books before I would go with Harry Potter personally, or with a lot of people read Little Prince, and some of the passages, I worked with somebody who was using Little Prince, and some of the things that they pulled out to discuss with me were just so random that I'm like, well, realistically, you're not going to use this type of vocabulary right now, and particularly in this type of context. And even trying to fit things around to make it more relevant is going to be tough. So I would say find things that are maybe sort of teenage type stuff where it's about relationships or about things like that. That might be more appropriate as a learner at the kind of B stages than say, than say Little Prince or Harry Potter or something like that. I like, as I say, I like Wonder, so I'm always going to say Wonder is just a wonderful book to read. I love the story. I think, yeah, it's just really, really nice. It's one of those feel good things. You've got the film to watch as well if you want to later. How do I best retain what I've learned? Practice, practice, and more practice. There is sadly no other thing. If you don't have any access to the language, it doesn't go in by osmosis. It does rust after a while. So practice, 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 practice is the answer to that question. Now I've got to 35 minutes, so I went a little bit over on those questions, but I thought that they were quite good questions, and I hope you don't hate me for for going through them. But I'm going to try and go back to the questions that are in the chat here. I'm going to start on Instagram because I started on YouTube last time, and I'll just go through quickly and see if there are any questions that I can answer. I wish that Instagram would organize things better. It tends to put so, because I got all the hellos in here in the same place as the questions. And like when people enter and leave, or people enter the chat, it's very odd. Hello, hello, nice to see you all. Thank you for coming. Where am I from? I've not had that question in a while. I am originally from the United Kingdom. Yeah. Let me see. Yep. Hello, 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 hello. Ni hao. Oh, I got a nin hao. Nin hao. Haha. How are things going? Yep, going well, thank you. How are you? Thank you very much. Hola, professor. Hola, tudo bem? Let me see. Okay, I'm seeing lots of nice signs. So it looks like you were agreeing with some of the stuff that I was saying. So thank you. Terrific advice. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Okay. How are you doing? I've been watching your videos for a long time. Thank you. Everything. You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much for supporting me by watching the videos. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you. Let me see. Do you give private English lessons? Not private English lessons. I give. I basically I give language learning therapy sessions. So general language learning, whether that's English or whether that's another language, it's any language. And you can join those sessions on Patreon, which is in my link on the YouTube video, and also on my website, speakingfluently.com. You can join it that way. The other thing you can do is fill in the application form as well if you're not a Patreon user, or I don't know, but you're guaranteed to work with me on Patreon. Through the form, I will go through, and it's an application to work with me, and I will be a little bit stricter this year. Last year, I definitely spent a lot of time going through a lot of applications and reaching out to a lot of people, and it took me a whole month to do, and I'm not going to be doing it that much this time. I will be a lot stricter on my general cuts, because I need to see that I can actually help. If I don't feel that I'm going to be able to help you, I won't. I won't do it. Just because I think that I'm not here to sell a product. I'm here to help people who really need help and want support and know what I'm about. If you don't know what I'm about, don't go to someone else. Work with someone else, because I think if you know who I am and you know what I'm about, then you're very welcome to join me. But I'm not going to try and sell what I do. It's not my business to do that. So I only really want to work with people who want to work with me. Let me see. Okay, I think I got to there were no other questions on there, so I think I got to the end of the questions, which is fantastic. Let me see. So now I am on YouTube, and I'm going to look at the questions on YouTube. Saludos desde México. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Todo bien? Muchas gracias. Welcome back. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hello. The choice of language and materials these days is endless. That is a really good. It's good that you reminded me of that, Svetlana. So that is one of the other things that I find quite often, is that people get overwhelmed with what to do, when to do it, how to choose courses, how to choose materials. It's very, very difficult. And sometimes what I find people do is they have like 3, 4, 5 books, and they're all similar books, but different authors or whatever else, and they start all of them, and then they feel that they're never moving on. The reason is because if you take one course, for example, and you do the first chapter, and you think, oh, well, what does the other course do in the first chapter? And you do that, and it does something different because each course will go about teaching the language in a different way, and you feel that you're never getting past the first few chapters, and so you get frustrated, you get bored, and you maybe give up, and that is a big issue. So I have had to be quite strict with the number of people I work with and say, I now have to tell you not to use anything else. You need to pick a book and you need to tell me which one it is, and that's the one you're going to use. And even if that's only for the first month, we're going to see how it goes for a month. But we have to pick a book. We have to pick one thing. We can't use everything all of the time. We can supplement things with fun things to do. Like you can have people that you follow on Instagram, or you can have certain YouTube channels that you watch. You can have certain things that you do in your free time, but you need to be able to follow some sort of methodology through it, whether it's a book, whether it's an app, whatever it is that you choose. Um, it needs to be something so that you don't get this sort of scattergun approach and end up just sort of not going anywhere with anything. Yeah, very good that you brought that up. Thank you. What advice have you got for people trying to learn Slavic languages when in school they only have experience studying Germanic and Romance languages and zero experience studying Slavic languages? JR, good question. So Slavic languages, they're typically, if you are an English speaker and you study Germanic and Romance languages, Slavic languages feel like they have quite a high entry point to be able to start speaking. And the reason is that most of the Slavic languages that people do study tend to have 7 cases. And so it takes time, right? Most people are not learning Bulgarian or Macedonian. It's just the way it is. Most people are studying Polish, Czech, Russian, Ukrainian. Now there are quite a lot of people trying to study Ukrainian nowadays, but they tend to be the languages that people do study. And sadly, the entry level to start speaking is quite high, just because you need to know quite a lot of basic grammatical rules to be able to start saying basic things in the language, and that's just a fact. Unfortunately, you can't get around. What I say is, if you want to do that and you're at school and you're studying other languages that are not related necessarily to Slavic directly, as in the Indo-European but not Slavic, then be kind to yourself, take it slowly, take it easy, because you need to get yourself used to the types of consonant clusters that they have in those languages. If it's a different script, the different script, and also learn things in a natural way. So I would definitely advise against, particularly in the beginning, trying to memorize tables of grammatical, noun declensions and things like that. I think that can be counterproductive, because sometimes you're learning, a case for a noun that you're probably not really realistically going to use at all, or at least very rarely, and particularly in the beginning stages, you may never use. So learn the things that you need for when you need them, and expose yourself to the language over a longer and slower period of time, and get used to the fact that it takes time for this to sink in and to become normal. That's my advice. I have problems learning my target language and studying for this IT certification at the same time. I'm putting my language on hold until I get the certificate. Could you give me any advice? I think that, Vincent, it sounds like you've made a decision. And if you have realized and recognized that you need to put your language study on hold to finish your IT certification because that's important to you, you have understood what your priorities are, which is fantastic. And you've recognized that you can put your language studies on hold. The language isn't going anywhere, and you can come back to it after you finished your IT certification. So my advice to you is come back when you've done your certification and certification for IT. I think go for it, and good luck with your studies. It sounds like you've made a very sensible choice to me. I know that might seem weird, me advising someone or giving someone, congratulations for not studying a language, but sometimes that's the right decision in some parts of our lives. Sometimes we have to recognize that languages aren't going anywhere and we can come back to them. And we're not failing because we're doing that. That's actually us owning the truth of our situation and owning the reality that we're in. And that is really, really important in language learning generally. So anyone who recognizes that, like Vincent has, I think it's fantastic. So seriously, good on you for doing it, because that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. And then they beat themselves up over it and feel bad about it. And you've been really, really brave to do that. So good stuff. Let me know. I hope you do well with your IT certification. Yeah, I love etymology and words from Greek and Latin. Yeah, Craig. Yeah, so cool. I love etymology. It's one of my favorite things. So about this, let's see. Hello, Richard. I am currently learning my 14th and 15th languages. Wow. Do they have names? It sounds like this. I would love to know what the names of those languages are. Sounds cool. Tiffany, I will have to join a different session time for the next 10 weeks due to my class schedule. I've really enjoyed what we've been doing so far. Thank you, Tiffany. I love having you in the sessions, and I'm really, really pleased that you'll be able to join another session. You're just a great person to have around, so thank you. Yeah, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Let me see. Break the logic. How can anybody become a teacher in their mother tongue? So for English, for example, we have this thing called Teach English as a Foreign Language, or TEFL qualification. You basically do a month's course and you get a TEFL certification. They teach you how to teach English to other people, and then you're away, you can start practicing. There may be that in the language that you want to teach as well, or an equivalent of that. So it's worth checking to see if you want to teach English and you want to then transfer those skills. There are lots of programs that teach you how to do that in English, and you could potentially, given that you speak English here, you possibly could do one of those courses for a month. You can do an intensive month course, even in different countries. I did that course in Czech Republic many years ago, and I found it very, very useful. It gave me a lot of tips on how to teach a group of people who do not speak my language, and it worked well. Yeah, and then I applied it to other languages as well afterwards. I had a student who wanted to learn Welsh, and I applied the methodology to teaching Welsh. Not that my Welsh is not my first language, but somebody really wanted to learn some Welsh, and I thought, okay, I can maybe help. So I did. I tried it. It was a friend, so there was no pressure. Hey Richard, your voice is a little bit lower. Oh, is it low today on YouTube? I'm so sorry. I don't know why. Very odd. I'll try and speak up. I'm sorry, I just seen that now. I don't know the term for it, but I learn a language best by accents and listening for keywords to make sense of a conversation. I mean, using your ear to learn a language sounds, it's a reasonable thing. People learn music in a similar way. They learn to play tunes because they hear the music, they hear the melody, and then they start reproducing it. So maybe that's that kind of your thing, Ken. That's sounds reasonable. Hey from Norway, hello. Yeah, calling you out on the one of those things. I'm like, wow. Oh, I think that was when I was talking about the talking about things that are easy for you. I will say why I chose to learn certain languages. It's all to do with the environment I was born in, and we are kind of omniglots. Omnilinguals to an extent for the most part. Okay, but it's a hobby I love. Right, that's really cool, Svetlana. I like that you just. Yeah, thank you. They don't let me like twice. Oh, thank you. That's so kind. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're liking once, I can't ask for much more than that. I think that's very, very kind of you to like once. Thank you. Let me see. Do you think it's bad to start with the Slavic literature, like part of War and Peace in Russian when you're a beginner? Yeah, I think it's probably not a good idea to start with War and Peace as a beginner in Russian. simply because the idea of literature to help you learn really is the idea of that Stephen Krashen promotes, which is comprehensible input. So you understand enough of it to be able to make sense of it. You can use elements of literature that you don't understand very well at all and use it for intensive language study, which is you analyze the text and you analyze it for very different reasons. But as a reading thing for fun, no, I don't necessarily advise people to, generally speaking, to read things that they don't understand. It's not useful or helpful in the long run. You start picking out certain things maybe, but it'd be quite a boring task. Fastest time to learn a language and which one? Oof. Well, everyone says that Esperanto is probably the one that you can learn the quickest, and I probably agree. It's quite methodical. It's a logical language. You can understand how it works in a few rules and start speaking very quickly. So Esperanto probably is the one that's fastest, and people tend to speak it and have conversations in it after a couple of months or a few months, not particularly long time really. So I would say that. Inga, and okay, listening to you has become a Sunday afternoon tradition now. Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. Благодарам. Thank you very much. Okay. Is it worth using Heinrich Stadtmann's method to learn a language from the beginning? I have no idea. I don't know that. I don't know the method, Roman. So if you explain the method, I'm very happy to comment on it. But I from the name, I don't know the method. Bonjour, hello. Is that bonjour, hello? So it reminds me of being in Montreal. That's how people in Montreal would greet you when you entered to the door in the door of a shop. They say bonjour, hello. Okay. Do you still maintain your Norwegian, Icelandic? Norwegian, no. Icelandic, kind of. So I have lots of friends who write regularly in Icelandic, and I read in Icelandic. I don't actively speak it very often, but I was in Iceland. That was kind of the last big trip that I went on. Was I spent in Iceland, and I obviously used Icelandic in Iceland. I did a little interview there, but my Icelandic is definitely rusty for sure. But yeah, that's the one I probably have more contact with. Norwegian, I understand. I've always understood Norwegian because of Swedish and Danish, particularly because of Swedish. So yeah, Norwegian doesn't seem to go away. It's just that my active ability in Norwegian is kind of ropey, I guess. Richard Canis, do you ever watch other of the younger YouTube polyglots like Ryan Hall or Shalma? Okay, I see. They are great, and also like Luke, right? They would be great addition to the conference. Yeah, do you know what? So Shalma, for example, I was in touch with him, and we're connected on a few places. It was all when Moses died, he took part in the video that we made as a community. And so, yeah, I have been in touch with him. The other ones I don't know, or at least I think I don't know. I'm always looking for new people who can talk or can be ambassadors for languages, and I support anyone who's doing something positive in the language learning community. So yeah, I mean, thank you for the recommendations. I'll see if I can find out more about these people and reach out to them. If you talk to them or you're interacting with them, or if they even watch this, I don't know. If they may never watch me, they may not know who I am, but I'll make a note of their names and see if I can reach out to them. It's sometimes quite difficult to know how to reach out to people with this, but yeah, I mean, I'm always open to talk to new people. Absolutely. Are you familiar with the American Heritage Dictionary of Indo-European Roots? That rings bells, actually. but I don't think I definitely haven't got a copy, but I think I've seen it somewhere. It rings bells. Thank you for. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can look for that as well and see if I can. Because I love Indo-European roots. They're fascinating. So yeah, thank you for that. What or which language did you find hardest to learn or grasp? Georgian. There's no, for me, there's no contest really. For me, it was Georgian. I found Georgian particularly nightmarish to try and speak. But I mean, again, it's a language I don't have any contact with really, apart from I've had lessons in it. So yeah, but that's been the one I found for Liam for sure to now. I forced myself to not pick up my Assamil French for the past year because I'm doing a master's, but I'm finishing in May and I'm getting so excited. John, brilliant. I love that you're doing that. I think that's absolutely really, really good that you did that. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of strength to say, no, I'm going to do something else. It's great stuff. I have a lot of respect for anyone who does that. Привет. Hi, Chanel. Nice to see you. Richard, greetings from Romania. Will you try to join the Zoom next week from here? Oh, cool. And thank you. Fantastic. Good to see you got there okay. I feel okay. I think they meant Ryan Hale. Yes, Ryan Hale. That's what I've written. Oh, I've written Ryan Hall down. Ryan Hale. Thank you for the correction. Okay. I'll see if I can find. I don't know where I'm going to find Ryan Hale. I hope I can find these people. Kamarjoba, Gmadlob, Didi Madlob. Okay, I'll save Georgian for last. Yes, Georgian is absolutely. Do you know what? Georgian's really cool. I like Georgian. The thing that I liked about it was the way they write it, and that's the easiest part of Georgian. Is the writing system's not that hard to learn. It takes very little time to learn how to read and write it, but the grammar is, yeah, fun. Yeah, see how you feel with it. But the people are lovely. I love George. George is beautiful, and the people are very sweet. Luke is an expert in Latin. Ryan Hall always uses Omegle TV, interacting Indonesian, Russian, French people. Okay, probably from midday, UK time every Saturday. Oh, okay. Okay, Craig. Thank you for the update on that. I had no idea. Yeah, that's so cool. I see people on TikTok, because I go on TikTok and I follow a lot of new people who I didn't know before on TikTok, and I try and connect with people, and I really enjoy it. TikTok's quite cool. I keep thinking that I'll start a TikTok properly. I've got an account, but I don't really use it very much. I just use it to comment and to follow things, and I've got one video on that. That's it. But not me doing anything that you would probably used to. Just me talking about the etymology of a word. Let me see. So you mentioned Georgian, and on the level of language difficulty, my mind was blown that Georgian is not a Category 4 language. Yeah, Ken, I always found it very weird. The categories felt very. Yeah, I always find it weird the way that they categorize them. I'll be honest as well. I've also found Korean fairly challenging. It's been over a year, and I still can't say very much of anything in Korean. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Korean, I agree, it's a challenging one. But yeah, Georgian, I always find people don't. Yeah, so it's underrated the difficulty level in getting into Georgian. Some great, yeah, okay, and any Georgians. So some Lovna, Tkveni, Godsnumber. Very nice. Some great music. I reacted from Georgia. Yeah, Georgian. Georgian will be on Link soon, I think. Really? Wow, I had not heard that before. Como eu consegui melhorar o meu sotaque brasileiro em português? Falando com a gente, senhor. Assim, para mim, acho que isso. Falando com a gente em português e fazendo gravações também do sotaque português, e ouvir como você fala, ou consiga falar a língua, também fazer comparações entre o português que você tem ou imita. E isso, e perguntar também como fazer os sons da língua portuguesa brasileira. E isso para mim é a coisa mais importante para fazer para uma língua, assim, em geral, não somente para português, mas para muitas línguas. Привет, привет, Oksana. I've been learning Esperanto for some months and I love it. Not only is it easier to master than other languages, but also there's an amazing community of Esperantists. You're absolutely right. Yep, I agree with you. Absolutely. Thank you for commenting on that, Oksana. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. Yeah, my Korean's terrible. You wouldn't believe, honestly, if you heard me, you'd think I've been learning it for a week, not a year. Yet the category people say Georgian is easier. It is just like if you have Georgian easier language. Have you ever studied a language? Yeah, exactly. So people do say Georgian's easier. Have you ever studied a language while there was a major situation happening, like the speakers of those learning like Russian or Ukrainian now? No, I did go to a Ukrainian group. We've got them in the Polyglot conference, and people are learning Ukrainian now. Every week they meet to learn some Ukrainian, and I did go to that in the first week. I've not been since because I've had a number of things each weekend, so I haven't been able to. But otherwise, yes. Ótimo sotaque, falando português. Congratulations. Muito obrigado. Eu não sei, há muito tempo que eu não falo português, mas eu gosto muito do sotaque brasileiro. Eu, quando estudava na universidade na Inglaterra, eu falava com sotaque mais português, com pronunciação mais portuguesa. Mas depois de um período de tempo no Brasil, aprendi a falar um pouco mais assim, com um sotaque mais aberto. Não falar com os mais fechado, com os portugueses de Portugal. Isso. Isso. Okay. I swear that was my thought, like consonant clusters, unbelievable. Yeah. I have started learning Cherokee now after a session with that. Even Georgian seems nice and familiar. It's all relative. My word, Inga, you are absolutely a monster when it comes to these languages. You studied, like, was it Greenlandic you were studying as well? My word, Greenlandic. Talk about languages that look difficult to get good at. Wow. Okay, and back to the comments now on Instagram. I'm just going to check and then we'll wrap up. What grammar structures should beginners and elementary students know? Oof. That's a question. It's a very difficult question to answer. Depends on the language, because, for example, verb conjugations are pretty important in some languages, but in Mandarin, not really, because they're exactly the same all the way through. So it depends on the language. I wish I had an easy answer, but I don't, unfortunately. But generally for that, the best thing to do is look at the beginning books, and it gives you the answer to that question for the individual language that you want to learn. It will tell you the kinds of things that you need to know. For European languages, typically you learn present tense, past tense, future tense at kind of or like an eighth version of the future tense in kind of an A1 to A2-ish level, and then you may go a bit deeper at A2 into some other versions of the past tense, for example, and then at B1 really you're learning more complicated tenses and moods. So depends on the language. For a language like Korean and Japanese, language like Chinese, it's more about the structures that you need to learn to express certain ideas, because you have to, it's combinations of things or things that you change. Korean and Japanese work a little bit like the Turkic languages, where you have to manipulate certain endings that you change on verbs to to like the possibility or the ability of doing something. Basically, it becomes one new verb form that you then add a conjugation to at the end. And so learning those things that you add on and change is the important thing. So yeah, it depends on language. Sorry, I can't give you a very specific answer for that question. It's a bit too broad, unfortunately. I'm looking for a native English speaker to practice speaking. You said that. So when could you help me? So I don't give English lessons to people. Yeah, I'm a language consultant, so I will consult on language learning, and I would do that through the medium of English if you wanted me to speak English. But I don't teach English. Doing well, thank you. Grammar is important. Grammar important speaking, both. Grammar can be important. Grammar can be a really good shortcut. If you understand grammar and people explain how the grammar works, it can be really good to help get shortcuts into how to learn things more quickly, to understand how things go, and to be able to manipulate the language in a shorter amount of time. But speaking is really important because you get to practice. Practicing is really good because you get instant feedback and you get to see whether people understand you and the message is understood. So yeah, both are important. Where is the Polyglot Conference going to take place this year? Mexico, and also in the online language, the online live environment that we've set up. It will be in both places this year. I'm hopeful for Mexico because it looks like things are going ahead, and with the gathering going ahead in Poland, it's giving me a lot of hope that Mexico is going to work. And if all goes well, then it will be the final week of October, the last week of October, last weekend of October, should I say. So you'd be able to stay and then go for the celebrations of Los Muertos. So yeah, Cholula, Mexico. Beautiful place, by the way. Are there any languages that you've learned to fluency but have almost completely forgotten? I don't think so. Not to. I'm going to be very. I'm going to be very generous on fluency, and say that you mean kind of like at a level where I've worked professionally, and the answer to that is no. I did at one point get very rusty in Italian after my degree, because I have a degree in Italian, French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese is my degree. I studied at university and I wrote theses in these languages, but well, not Portuguese. I wrote a thesis in French, Spanish, and Italian. But I did get out of practice using Italian, and then I started working in Italian, and then I came back. But it was never completely forgotten. So I've not had that experience. No. I'm in Skopje. Yeah. So yeah, city of statues. Yes, we have a lot of statues here. Do you speak any Ukrainian? So I know some words and I understand it fairly well because I speak a lot of other Slavic languages, but I don't speak Ukrainian actively now. How old am I? 45. That's easy. Is it possible to reach real fluency in two languages at the same time if you learn two other languages? Absolutely, yeah, you can. You just need to be aware that you're splitting your time and your thought process, and so it takes maybe a bit longer to get there. But at university I studied French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. 4 languages I studied at university at the same time, and I was doing it full time, and it was okay. But my French and my Spanish were pretty good before I started my degree. The Italian and Portuguese I started at the same time from 0 at university, and it worked pretty well. Yeah. My strongest Slavic language, I just saw that, Macedonian, because that's my home language and has been for 17 years. So yeah, that's an easy question as well. How many languages do you know? I don't know. It depends what you mean by know. I've studied over 50, but I've not. I don't know how many I know. I let people decide. I let people decide what they want to decide I speak or don't speak or whatever. It doesn't really in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter to me because it doesn't change reality. So me saying something or somebody else thinking something different doesn't change reality. And it's difficult because I'd have to go through and talk, or at least think in all of them to check at every stage when I get that question. It's very difficult to do. I mean, I use around about usually about 25 to 30 roughly in a year at different levels. So I would actively use that many in, and like my life is in normally in English, Macedonian, French, Spanish, and German home languages, and then I use Albanian, Turkish, Serbian, Bulgarian, and Greek fairly regularly. And then they're not all amazingly fluent, don't get me wrong, but they're the ones I use fairly often just without trying. And then I will also use other languages as well for work or for travel. Obviously, I speak Welsh. I'm studying Cornish and Irish at the moment. And yeah, and then there's the other Slavic languages I've studied, the other Romance languages I've studied, the other Germanic languages I've studied and use for work. And then obviously I've studied bits of other languages too, like Indonesian, like been studying Korean for how long, but I would never count that as a language I speak. So it gets very difficult. How many languages do you know? It can get quite complicated. Richard, are you familiar with Manx? Yes, I am. Have you ever been to the Isle of Man? Yes, I have, a number of times. It's an area of the islands where it used to appear on the weather map when we had the weather forecast for my region, and the Isle of Man always appeared. So we always had North Wales, North West England, and the Isle of Man on our weather map. So that's kind of the area I grew up in, and we used to always go to the Isle of Man on school trips or to go and see the island. And I've been as an adult as well, and I love the Isle of Man. I'd love to learn Manx at some point. Suddenly got curious and I thought of visiting. Yeah, worth a visit. It's beautiful. It's really, really nice. Do they also speak English? Yes, they do. So yes. Manx is spoken by, I believe, I want to say 1,500-ish people on the island. There's a school, a Manx medium school. It could be more than that now who speak it, but they speak it, but they speak English. Yeah, English is the predominant language on the island in terms of like communication language communication just generally. ¿Es en español? ¿De qué? No sé de qué. Oh, ¿es en español? No era español, era portugués. Lo que estaba hablando, prefiero sí que... No, mi español es más de España, no de Brasil. A ver. I studied Esperanto Society. You started the Esperanto Society at university, college in London. Wow, fantastic. Would you be all right to talk? Of course I would, yes. If you're not, yeah, just reach out to me, get in touch. I'm happy to talk. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll do my best to speak in Esperanto. I know Esperanto is not amazing, but I can communicate. Can you speak Czech? Ano, mluvím česky, ano. Bydlel jsem v Čechách, takže ano, mluvím. Let's see. Okay. Har du noen gang studert nynorsk? Nei, det har jeg ikke gjort. Jeg har studert bare bokmål. Jeg var i Norge flere ganger. Jeg var der i Svalbard også. Ett år så tänkte jag att studera norsk för att jag snackade bara svenska där i Norge. Jag trodde det är bättre att snacka lite norsk också. Så jag lärde mig lite norsk och jag reser där i Norge från Oslo till Svalbard. Där snackade jag med folket der norsk. Og det var helt ok. Men min norsk så litt for svenskt. Det vet jeg. Men det er ok. Men det er ikke så lett å snakke norsk og svensk. Yeah, okay. That's brilliant to hear. Have great work. Thank you. Wow, cool. Let me see. Okay, I see a couple more answers here, and I will finish after these answers now on Instagram. So Instagram, I won't answer any more questions now. I'm sorry, Instagrammers, but I will answer the final questions on YouTube, and we will finish there. Okay, let me see. How's Estonian going? Tere. Yeah, Estonian's going okay, actually. I have Estonian sessions twice a week, and yeah, it's okay. My Estonian's not getting any better. I'm consolidating this kind of A2-ish level that I had, so it's consolidating that at the moment, and we'll see. I'm debating whether or not to go to Estonia in the summer, so we'll see how it goes. Kjære du you. Shkojnë maj në jetoj më gjishëritet që njo. Ashtu është. Kështu është Shqipëria. Shqipëria po vetëm në liçeni. Jo në Tiranë. Por flas me edhe gjuhë shqip këtu në Maqedoni në Shkup. Kemi edhe në Kosovë. Dhe mënyrës këtu në flas edhe shqip. Dhe maqedonisht, naturalisht, dhe edhe gjuhë turke. Dhe për mua në qendër kemi shumë dyqan me vetëm njerëz se flasin vetëm, jo vetëm, po flasin gjuhë shqip. Por kam shkuar, kam vizituar edhe Shqipëri, por vetëm në liçen në si është me emrin qytetit tani, nuk e di. Është një Pogradec, Pogradec. Kam shkuar në Pogradec 2 herë dhe ashtu. Dhe vetëm këtu në Maqedoni kemi edhe shumë shqiptar dhe flas në Shkup shumë shpesh. Edhe në kafene, në restoran kemi shumë shpesh njerëz dhe me këti në flas vetëm shqip. Po. What are your thoughts about difficulty of Hungarian? Yeah, I've not done enough to know how difficult it really is to speak. It felt manageable to start speaking, right? This is what I didn't have with Georgian, whereas Hungarian felt more familiar than Georgian, but still not easy. But yeah, it takes time. Have you reached a level to be able to read and have conversation? No, absolutely not. No, only very basic stuff in Hungarian. Let me see. As someone from Ireland who is advanced in the language, starting learning maybe 15 years ago, I'm curious as to how difficult the whole language is compared to something like German, which I know. So Irish. Irish, it takes a bit of time to get used to, for sure. So it can be quite difficult, but yeah, it's possibly more manageable than, say, Georgian. I think depending on where you're coming from, right? So if you speak another Celtic language, then it can be a little bit more doable to start imagining speaking Irish. So even though my Irish, I've been doing it for like half a year, and still I can't say a huge amount, but I do recognize quite a lot. I watch Ross Naroon fairly regularly, and I'm starting to pick out quite a lot of stuff from Ross Naroon, but not to the point where I'm able to have much of a conversation. Whereas with German, I could definitely do more quickly, because German is a Germanic language like English. So, and the structures are a lot more similar, I think, in that way. Tack för svaret. Fint att du snackar norsk. Ja, tack. When learning Dutch, how did you overcome difficulty of the incredible level of English? So yeah, they do. So Dutch people do tend to speak very good English, but this is the big but. They don't tend to have all of the vocabulary you need if you live there. So they are not, for example, when I was dealing with the banks or dealing with formal institutions, they would be very cautious about using English because of any legal implications that you had of using another language that isn't a language of the country. So then you'd often either need an interpreter or you need to speak Dutch, and for that reason it was useful. And it was a similar story for anyone working, for example, like people coming to fix things in the house or things like that. I had to. TV was, I used to read TV a lot, so it would be written in Dutch with English audio, and I would learn a lot to do that. So I would say over about the first 6 months, it took me to get to a point where my Dutch was comparable to a Dutch speaker randomly speaking to me in English. It was fairly comparable at that point, like most people I came in touch with. Of course, there are Dutch speakers in the Netherlands who learn English to a very, very high level. And so, but I would often just say, I live in your country, I like your language, I need it to be able to read letters and to function and live here. I'd be grateful if we could speak Dutch. And they very often did. I don't think I ever had somebody turn around and say, no, I'm not going to speak to you in Dutch. It was always, yeah, that's fine. Okay. ¿Qué opinas de usar lenguaje? Okay. Videojuego. Espera. ¿Qué opinas de usar? Just 1 second. Non-stop. Sorry about that. Something going on outside. Okay. So, ¿qué opino de usar videojuego en diferentes idiomas para aprender? Es que no son medio película hoy en día. Sí, pues, es que nunca lo he utilizado para esto, para estudiar idioma. Es que nunca lo he hecho, la verdad, nunca lo he hecho. Así que no puedo decir mucho sobre este tema, pero nunca lo he hecho. Así que no puedo decirlo así en plan 100% funciona o no. Pero sí que me parece que podría funcionar. Sí, si a uno le guste jugar con videojuegos en varios idiomas, sí que podría funcionar también. ¿Quieres aprender árabe algún día? Sí, me gustaría mucho. Sí, claro. Great Irish dictionary resource. Yes, there is a great one. Is the folklore, folklore.ie, I believe, and that's a really good Irish language dictionary. Yeah, so it's I believe that's where they have also the three most common dialects in Irish, so that you can hear the different ways of pronouncing it in different words. Anyway, we have got to 1 hour and 22 minutes, and I have to dive to nip off and do other things, unfortunately. It's been great spending this time with you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Take care, and remember to check out the links if you're interested in working with me, and also remember to give a like, remember to follow, and show me your love with your likes and your follows. I really appreciate it. And also, yeah, reach out to me, and if you want to work together on your language learning, and I'd be very, very happy to hear from you. Okay, take care. Have a great week and happy language learning. Bye, everyone. See you soon.